Krishna Daya will love you. Okay. Hare Krishna. The floor is yours, Ananda Manjari.
Hare Krishna. I'll just start with prayers and then I will share the verse. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Om Gyanat Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Miritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtatyare Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Shri Ghora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you. Before I start anything, I want to thank you for coming and also beg for your blessings so I can speak something of benefits for myself and for the entire creation at large. Because when we come together, that's actually what happens. We are not only benefiting ourselves, but every living entity. I want to read an invitation to the Inner Circle of Spiritual Warriors by Bhakti Tirtha Swami, and then we will go into the verse.
Okay.
I found this at the closing remarks of the Spiritual Warrior 1, and I think that it's very fitting to this occasion. So it goes like this. It's a single paragraph. The earth is emerging into a millennium of spiritual enlightenment and purity. Her residents will be conspicuous by their loving nature and peaceful minds. The devas and angels will again visit the planet, and tranquility will permeate the atmosphere. We invite you to take your place among the inhabitants of the Golden Age. Take your weapons of austerity, mercy, compassion, and love, and join the ranks of the spiritual warriors as we forge a new beginning under the banner of the Supreme Lord. And so I feel like this is exactly what we are doing here. We are hearing about the Lord and purifying ourselves through service and for service. So with that, I will share the screen.
Mataji, there's somebody here named Lefty. He's a friend of ours. First time he's ever been to Bhagavatam class.
Good morning.
Okay, thank you so much for letting me know. It seems like I cannot share the screen on this computer. I fixed it like last week and things are still like falling into the place. So can somebody share the screen for me, or I think that would be best.
I'll try, Ananda Manjari.
Thank you.
You can say something uplifting while I'm
Okay, I think I will just start reading, and then when you're ready to share, then you can share. So this is the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 22nd, verse 20th. Ityakutena pipitam prajabala matva vivastra plavanam pratakyutim tat purti kamas tadashesha karmanam sakshat kritam nemur avadyamrik yataha. Synonyms: E.T. in these words, acutena, by the infallible Supreme Lord, abhihitam, indicated, Vraja Bala, the girls of Vraja, Matva, considering, Vivastra, naked, Aplavanam, the bathing, Vrata Kutim, a fall down from their vow. Thank you for sharing. I'll go back to mine. I fall down from the vow, tat purti, the successful completion of that, kamaha, intently desiring, tat, of that performance, ashesa karmanam, and of unlimited other pious activity, saksat kritam, to the directly manifest fruit, nemuhu, they offer their obeisances, avadyamrik, the cleanser of all sins, yataha, because. Translation of devoted disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and also their purport. Thus the young girls of Vrindavan, considering what Lord Achyuta had told them, accepted that they had suffered a fall down from their vow by bathing naked in the river, but they still desired to successfully complete their vow. And since Lord Krishna is himself the ultimate result of all pious activities, they offered the obeisances to him to cleanse away all their sins. This is a long purport. The transcendental position of Krishna consciousness is clearly described here. The Gopis decided that it was better to renounce their so-called family tradition and traditional morality and simply surrender unto the Supreme Lord, Krishna. This does not mean that the Krishna consciousness movement advocates immoral activities. In fact, the devotees of ISKCON practice the highest standard of restraint and morality, but at the same time, we recognize the transcendental position of Krishna. Lord Krishna is God and therefore has no material desire to enjoy young girls in sexual affairs. As will be seen in this chapter, Lord Krishna was not at all attracted to enjoying the Gopis. Rather, he was attracted to their love and wanted to satisfy them. Very instructive. The greatest offense is to imitate the activities of Lord Krishna. In India, there is a group called Prakrasahajiya who imitate those affairs of Krishna and try to enjoy naked young girls, Hare Krishna, in the name of worshipping Krishna. The ISKCON movement sternly rejects this mockery of religion because the greatest offense is for a human being to ludicrously imitate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the ISKCON movement, there are no cheap incarnations, and it is not possible for a devotee of this movement to promote himself to the position of Krishna. 500 years ago, Krishna appeared as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who practiced strict celibacy throughout his student life and at the age of 24 took sannyas, a lifelong vow of celibacy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rigidly avoided contact with women in order to carry out his vow of loving service to Krishna. When Krishna personally appeared 5,000 years ago, he exhibited these wonderful pastimes which attract our attention. We should not become envious or shocked when we hear that God can perform such pastimes. Our shock is due to our ignorance, because if we tried to perform these activities, our bodies would be afflicted by lust. Lord Krishna, however, is the supreme absolute truth and is therefore never disturbed by any material desire whatsoever. Thus, this incident, in which the Gopis gave up normal standards of morality and, raising their hands above their head, bowed down in compliance with Krishna's order, is an example of pure devotional surrender and not a discrepancy in religious principles. In fact, the Gopis' surrender is the perfection of all religion, as Srila Prabhupada describes in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or also known as Krishna book, The Gopis were all simple souls, and whatever Krishna said, they took to be true. In order to be freed from the wrath of Varuna Deva, as well as to fulfill the desired end of their vows, and ultimately to please their worshipable Lord, Krishna, they immediately abided by his order. Thus they became the greatest lovers of Krishna and his most obedient servitors. Nothing can compare with Krishna consciousness of the Gopis. Actually, the Gopis did not care for Varuna or any other demigod. They only wanted to satisfy Krishna. Wow, what a verse and what a purport. I think you can stop sharing. Thank you. So now I'll go into pointing out what I found very important. First thing that came to me when I was reading this verse was the emphasis on the name of Krishna. And throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can see many names of the Lord used throughout many pastimes. And one thing that is completely true and what we practice is to remember ourselves, to remind ourselves, and to really come to this realization is that Krishna embodies his name, and his name is non-different from him. And in this pastime, the name that is one of the names that is used is Achyuta, which means infallible Lord. And I found that to be very beautiful because it points out that even in reading specific pastimes, as even the name of the Lord can guide us into understanding the pastime deeper. In case you are non-native speaker like me, infallible in Oxford Dictionary means incapable of making mistakes or being wrong, and never failing and being always effective, which essentially means that even in this pastime, which can be at times disturbing to us with material conditioning, there is no chance that Krishna is doing anything wrong or anything out of morality, as per se the highest morality, not the morality we may know, and also be used to. And that also brought me to the four main defects of the conditioned souls that we carry. And so the four defects is that a conditioned soul must commit mistakes, must be illusioned or is illusioned, possesses the tendency to cheat others, and our senses are imperfect, which already shows us how different we are from Krishna. And on the other side, Krishna is fully complete and fully free of all of those defects. And so then I thought, how can we take this approach to understanding of our world and the scripture? Like knowing that it is completely impossible for the Lord to do something with intention to harm any living entity or to just wish them wrongly or badly. What is missing in my understanding of this pastime? And so I feel like that is a mood that I've been applying, knowing that there's already so much conditioning in my mind, and to know that and to trust that Krishna is infallible, that really brings us to the point of maybe small step of surrender and really questioning, like, what are we missing in understanding? Another point that came is falling short from our endeavors or commitments towards devotees or the Lord. In this pastime, Gopis are visibly falling short from their vow, although it's only happening for the sake of the pastime. And of course, we are not Gopis, but how does it apply to our life? And it can just simply be thinking about us as practitioners. And so what do we do when we fall short from our commitments or endeavors, or just don't meet our own standards or standards which are requested of us? And so one thing that came to me is the class of Mahatma Prabhu, and also my Gurudev, who spoke about enthusiasm and how enthusiasm and sincerity are our greatest assets. And this is why we need to practice them and tap into their reserves. Essentially, everything can go wrong externally because we are not entitled to the fruits of our actions. And still, if our world may be falling apart in our experience, and we still cry out the name of the Lord and cry for help and trust that if we simply continue chanting, continue doing our sadhana and doing our best, we actually are going to be delivered by the holy name and our acharyas. That is our greatest success. And so how do we keep going, and how do we really preserve this enthusiasm? And that is what is pointed out here, which is the process of surrender, that when everything fails, or like when we finally realize we are not the controllers and give up our control and tap into the surrender, that's when we actually come to the platform of highest love towards Godhead, and one of the highest realizations or highest surrender that the Gopis are exemplifying. And this is what happened in this pastime. They were trying so sincerely and did so many austerities, but then when they just couldn't do it, by the surrender, it was complete. And what also stuck to me is the phrasing "no cheap incarnations." I found that to be extremely interesting in reading the purport, how the disciples of Srila Prabhupada are speaking about us not imitating Krishna, and this is so important. And we may even think like, oh, we are devotees, we don't try to imitate Krishna, but on so many levels, it is there of still feeling or thinking or acting as if we are controllers, or doing some things that the Lord would do that we don't really have qualifications for ever. And so that also points to the importance of how much we need to work and for the purification of ourselves to even be able to see the Lord eventually through his own mercy. And it also brings me to the importance of human life, how important human life is, that this is a incarnation through which we can actually work and attain the highest realization and truly tap into life. To some extent, we've been living in so many bodies before, but to truly come to life with a capital L, of like never having to come down, never having to take another birth, that's something completely different and fully transcendental and an extreme blessing to be able to really have this human form. And so that goes down to the importance of chanting the holy name, which is our training ground and our destination. And I have a pastime of Srila Prabhupada I wanted to read from Srila Prabhupada's Nectar, which points out to this extremely beautifully. So this is Srila Prabhupada speaking in Melbourne, speaking about chanting of the holy name. On one occasion, and I want to see who wrote this, but I'm not sure. In one occasion in Melbourne, Prabhupada was talking about how just by chanting Krishna's holy name, anyone can be reformed and brought to perfection. He spoke of how bad a condition of the world was in and is in, as we can confirm, but that simply by chanting, everything could be rectified. In a very serious and sober way, Prabhupada said, "I think we can do it." In this way, he impressed the devotees with the depth of his faith and realization. I think we can do it, because Prabhupada said we can do it. There's another pastime I wanted to read on austerity and also not imitate it. And this is the pastime from Guru Smarana, Meditations on Guru, which is about His Holiness Radhanath Swami. And it speaks about the austerity of Raghunath Das Goswami. Once Guru Maharaj gave a lecture on Raghunath Das Goswami and spoke about his austerity, especially those he performed at Radha Kunj. He used to drink little buttermilk occasionally. Then he explained that once he was suffering from stomach ache, and then they called for Vaidyaraj, Ayurvedic doctor. After checking the pulse, he took followers of Raghunath Das Goswami aside and said, his problem is overeating, particularly from what I have diagnosed. He has eaten a large quantity of milk, rice, and sugar. The devotees staying with Raghunath Das Goswami thought it was an impossible thing. He usually drank only a teaspoon of buttermilk, and so they decided to verify with Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. So they went and asked Raghunath Das Goswami about what the doctor had said, and he began to laugh. He revealed that while he was chanting the holy names and deeply meditating on the supreme Leela of Radha and Krishna, he actually entered the Leela in his eternal form as a Gopi. Our acharyas are Gopis and Manjaris, which are very highly elevated personalities in the spiritual realm, which we all hope to serve. Now this is absorption. He was actually in his eternal form as a Gopi in Vrindavan, a Manjari. He was serving Radha and Krishna. And Radharani, which is the supreme consort and mother god, gave him the remnants. She took Krishna's remnant of kheer, which is sweet rice, paramana, and then she tasted Krishna's remnants, and then she gave her remnants to Raghunath Das Goswami. It was nothing but rice cooked in milk and sugar, as predicted by the doctor. And he ate everything she gave, and therefore on the physical platform, he was really having indigestion. That is the caliber of his tapasya, which is austerity. No one can imitate him, and if one imitates, he will die. After the class was over, Maharaj was in the temple just walking around and talking with devotees, and one devotee asked Maharaj, Maharaj, you told the story of Raghunath Das Goswami. After hearing that, I felt I have no hope to go back to Godhead in this lifetime. If that is the standard of Krishna consciousness, that unless we do austerities like Raghunath Das Goswami, we will not go back to Godhead. Is that the standard of becoming Krishna conscious? What a beautiful question. I had the same. Maharaj replied, I only told in class that we cannot imitate. For us, if we follow the order of our spiritual master sincerely, honestly, and try our best to please him, then by his mercy, we can go back home to Godhead. Raghunath Das Goswami and other Vaishnavas are great souls. We can't imitate them. They appear in this world to teach us the value of austerity. So we should do some austerity. That was his standard, that although he honored prasadam in his mind, which is sanctified food, he got a stomach issue. For us, we should at least be looking for some austerity, not look for a cozy life. For us, Srila Prabhupada is so merciful. He said, you eat prasadam as much as you want and chant 16 rounds. This is how Maharaj immediately reconciled. Otherwise, we would have taken it in the wrong spirit. For us to follow the order of our spiritual master is the only way to go back to Godhead. And also our austerity is chanting of the holy name, accepting and eating or honoring only what is offered, and truly trying to control the tongue and the mind, which need to be tamed. Yes, that's a very beautiful pastime. So that's also goes back to this story of the Gopis and how they were performing so many austerities. And Srila Prabhupada is so merciful that through his compassion towards all living entities, he gave us the process that we can follow, even in the conditions that are very fallen, or with so much baggage that we need to work through before even coming to the phase which used to be the beginning of spiritual life in the past or in previous generations of acharyas. I'm looking over my notes. There was an important point about obeisances. Thank you, Andrea, for this comment. There was an important point about obeisances, and obeisances are a physical expression of humility. And this is part of our culture. When we come to the temple, we pay obeisances. And so in this way, we are practicing the position of a servant. And literally and figuratively, we are grounding ourselves. Because we are coming from this vertical position of having the head above our heart and then come down into being horizontal and really bringing our head to the ground and just bowing down in that way, realizing I actually, like, my mind, I cannot trust my mind. I cannot trust my senses. So I'm surrendering through this physical act of obeisances. And it reminds me of what Swayam Bhagavan Keshava Maharaj said, which I really loved, which is the sense of obeisances as if we look down on others, we cannot see the grace of God. But if we stay humble and put ourselves lower, then we can actually look up and connect with the grace of the Lord. And with that, I would like to finish with short pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, which also speaks about humility. This is again from the Nectar, Srila Prabhupada's Nectar. On another visit to the Brooklyn Temple, while Srila Prabhupada was seeing the latest paintings of his artist disciples, he suddenly asked that a tape be brought of his singing the bhajan Jeev Jago. Within a few minutes, the tape was found, and Prabhupada sat back silently listening along with the roomful of devotees. He became so absorbed in listening to the singing that to the devotees it appeared he had entered a spiritual trance. I also want to point this language because this language itself comes out of humility, that because of our inadvancement or lack of advancement, we can't even know if somebody falls into the trance. And so even to say that Srila Prabhupada appeared this way also is an expression of humility. Even when he looked up and glanced around the room, they felt that Prabhupada's spiritual mood was deep and unapproachable. When the tape was over, Prabhupada still could not speak, so it appeared that the meeting was over. The devotees began to reluctantly rise and leave, but one of them came forward with another painting. Prabhupada, we forgot to show you. Here's one more painting. Yes, said Srila Prabhupada. Still, in a very thoughtful mood. Yes, it is good. He then looked around at the assembled devotees in the room and began shaking his head appreciatively. Actually, all of you are good, he said. You are all good, and in your association, even I am good. Otherwise, I am very bad. Now the meeting was over, and so no one was able to reply to Prabhupada's humble statement. Here's one short one. On a summer evening in Vrindavan, is it this one? I'm sorry, I just need to check. Yes, on a summer evening in Vrindavan in 1977, Tamal Krishna Goswami told Prabhupada how much he appreciated Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada then began to cry. I am only a child, he said, but I have tried to please my Guru Maharaj. He then said that he did not write these books, but that they were written by Krishna and his Guru Maharaj. Later, he reprimanded Upendra for leaving some cabinet doors open. Then he told Upendra that although he chastised him very severely, he was actually praying to Krishna, I cannot deliver them, you do. With that, I'll open for questions, comments, chastisements, reflections, or anything you would like to add. Thank you so much for hearing me and for yeah, giving your attention and presence. Yes, dear Andrea.
Hare Krishna, dear Ananda Manjari, Devi Dasi Prabhu, my dear sister. Always so glad to see you give class. Some of the reflections that I want to give are hearing you chant, and it felt like it was like chanting, singing the prayers and the Maha Mantra gave me goosebumps because I can feel the devotion and love that you were putting into them, and the sincere request for mercy that you were extending. So thank you so much for doing that. And I wanted to share what you shared today made me think of a class that I heard yesterday, given by Kalakanta Das Prabhu, where he shared a pastime that when Prabhupada was still in his body, when he was still here, that the devotees tried in Back to Godhead to explain the benefits of chanting the holy names with, health benefits and things of that sort. And that Prabhupada actually got really upset, and he said, no, the only reason we chant the holy name is to please Krishna. And that really hit me. And then Kalakanta Das Prabhu explained that if we go around chanting the holy names thinking like, this pleases Krishna, and we think of ourselves as like the prodigal son, from the biblical story, and knowing that when we chant the holy names, we're turning towards Krishna. We're calling out to Krishna, and Krishna is so happy that here's this conditioned soul that is finally turning back towards him. That makes him so happy. And just understanding that can kind of shift. So I just wanted to share that because it felt like something you would already know maybe, or would like to hear. But yeah, what you spoke about today really made me think about that. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. This is so beautiful. And yeah, I also see humility in you. It's like, it's something I would love to hear, and it's something that everybody needs to hear too. I lost your video. I want to come back to wherever you are. But I also want to say that what comes to me hearing this is even the separation, which doesn't need to happen. And this is how we are taught through material conditioning, that it's like, if I am pleasing myself, I cannot please anybody else. Or if I am pleasing somebody else, I cannot please myself. Whereas in devotional service, in chanting Hare Krishna, in our sadhana, it's like, if we actually try to please the Lord, by pleasing him, we are completely satisfied and completely pleased ourselves. And I can attest to that. Of like, once there was a situation when my spiritual master told me that he is proud of me, and I just like started bawling, and I felt like, wow, this is actually something I waited my whole life and I didn't know, because it felt so good to the heart. And so it's even that, it's just like, this is why this process is so perfect, because even when we actually surrender and give everything from ourselves, we still receive more. So thank you so much for this comment. It's incredible. Pimadas Prabhu?
Sorry about that. I was watering the horses. But lovely class, lovely class. I just wanted to know, I was looking in my mailbox, and I didn't get an invitation to this humble party that's going on here. So I was I got nothing in the mail. So I was just wondering, can I crash this party, or anyways, I just wanted to say that. So what does one do? Okay, so we have these pastimes of Krishna, and they are apparent. Prabhupada wrote Krishna book, and within Krishna book, and that was one of the first books he wrote in order to get to the 10th canto right away, to show Krishna's pastimes and display them in a way that was palatable to others. When you have someone who is very brand new, or someone who is relatively new to Krishna consciousness, and they are faced with these types of pastimes, what is the best way? Is it that we do not mention them? But what is the best way to couch this scenario, this particular scenario right now with Krishna and the Gopis? What is the best way to couch that so that they have access to this without being offensive or completely misunderstood? So I'll leave with that question.
It's such a beautiful question, and I think it's very important. And I also acknowledge that I am definitely not qualified to give you a complete answer at all. What comes to me as the first is how much faith do we have? From practicing, I'm a nonviolent communication practitioner, from practicing communication for a few years by now. It's very clear that whatever language we speak, if the intention and if the energy isn't there in the right placement, it still can cause impact on others because we can still pick up energy. And so even if I'm saying beautiful words to somebody, but I actually really have bad intentions, it's going to have an impact. And so I feel like the first thing that comes is like, are we ourselves truly trusting Krishna that he is the supreme controller and he means the best for everybody and he is the supreme well-wisher of everyone? And can we come from this position and pray to the Lord, like, what am I to share in this circumstance with this person that could benefit them? Another thing that comes to me is starting with the suspension disbelief, which is to simply say, like, this, to acknowledge this may be triggering or this may be activating to some extent because this is our material conditioning, this is how we see the world. And to even just say that and to ask the other person, like, can you please take a moment and just within your heart or within your mind, like, set up a boundary of like, what I know is actually not reality. And there is a very different reality that is different from my conditioning, and it may be very hard to understand. And this is what I do within myself. I just suspend my own judgments or disbelief. And that helps to open the heart a little bit more. And from that point, we can ask more questions. And I feel like, again, what would support is simply that we are not talking to a general somebody, like we are speaking with a very specific person. And so when we are speaking with a specific person, we can also communicate with that person because they may be activated by different things. They have different pathway or different experiences in the past that they may be bringing to this experience. And so I would suggest to even ask them, like, what is hard for you to receive, or do you have any questions that I could clarify, and to really stay there with them. Because I find that what's really important is, again, coming from the sense of, from the place of faith and trust in Krishna, and can we actually extend that trust in Krishna to them? And from there we can go into, what does it mean? What does nakedness means in this pastime, which is symbolic? What does other things mean in this pastime? What are the intentions of Krishna? What are Krishna's qualities that we know of and we can see, and that they permeate all of his pastimes? But it's very hard to grasp it because we have so much conditioning. So not the only thing I want to say, but I find that it's really important that it's really hard to share Krishna consciousness through logic when the heart is already activated. Like, when the emotions are there, the emotions need to be addressed, and logic will not help. I mean, I have it in my life. It's just like, how many times have I experienced, I don't know, anger or something else, and then somebody is trying to like calm me down by logic, and I'm like, well, sorry, I just need to feel things now. And so I feel that this is also very similar in this case, but it's not complete. I really feel that the basis is just trust in Krishna, and others seeing our trust in Krishna, and also seeing that it's not a blind trust, that it actually has been built and also borrowed from our acharyas. Is there anybody who would like to add something? Adipurusha Prabhu, do you have an answer to this?
Yeah, wonderful class. Extraordinary. Your spiritual master is empowering you, making you into a jewel. Beautiful. So, yeah, interesting story. And the concept of the gopis being willing to give everything, to be willing to give themselves totally to please Krishna. And it seemed, well, of course, it's a fact. We have a tendency to give ourselves to something. And if we don't give ourselves to Krishna, we'll wind up giving ourselves to material desires, to seeking power or fame or sensual experiences. And we see people stampeding down the street, driven by their uncontrolled senses and mind. So, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu gave a class a while ago about a Bob Dylan song where it said, everybody surrenders to something. It might be the devil, it might be the Lord, but you're always going to be surrendering to something. So we do want to give ourselves, and you made a really nice point about how if we give ourselves to Krishna, everyone else is satisfied and we're satisfied. Like it says in the Bible, seek first the kingdom of God, and all else will be given to you. By that one watering the root of the tree, every leaf on the tree is nourished and gets the thirst quenched. So nice principle. We've been talking around this all week, giving ourselves. These girls in the story giving themselves, and we also will be giving ourselves either to something that's substantial and have true value, or something that's frivolous and degrading. So we can choose like that. And Krishna is so wonderful that he's pointing this out to us. Look at this. Look at this. You have a choice also. Krishna gives us free will. What do you choose? All glories to Prabhupada, just repeating some of the things you said and some of the things we heard from the Guru. Thank you so much for the class.
Thank you so much. Can you remind me the name of the person who is relatively new in our Sangha? Who came?
Lefty. His name is Lefty.
Hello. Do you have any questions that you would like to bring, or anything that you would like clarification on?
No, just listening. I'm just listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions or corrections?
Beautiful class, Ananda Manjari. In the purport
Yes.
of the verse that we are reading, discussing today, it says, Krishna is God. And I found that line very, very profound. I was thinking, yeah, Krishna is God. And he came here to this world. He descended here. What did he do? He went to school. He got a job. And nobody knew about him? Not at all. He's God. His purpose is to grab our attention. And through pastimes like the one we're discussing today, he does it very expertly. He grabs our attention. And it may not be the pastime that you want to bring up when you're talking to somebody who is new. Maybe there are other things that we can discuss with new people. But still, we're not hiding anything. We're just using our intelligence and see what works. If we see that the person is receptive and open-minded, then we can go ahead. And we see if we see the person is not quite ready, then we talk about something else. I remember Adipurusha Prabhu once told me a story where there was a devotee who was explaining Krishna consciousness to somebody who was new, and this devotee told him that Krishna can eat with any of his senses. He can eat with his feet. And the person was like, what? Is Krishna a monster or something? so so we have to apply intelligence always. Okay, it's darshan time.
Okay. So if anybody wants to say more, please stay for after the darshan.
Just
Are you going to be there?
Yes, I will be there.
Because I'm not staying at this party unless you're here.
Bhima the party crasher. All right. Welcome to the Afterglow, everybody. Ananda Manjari is not going anywhere. She's here. She will answer your questions, take your reflections.
Yes. I also wanted to add to what you shared before the darshan, which was about not hiding anything. Because I also feel that that's a very important point. If there is even a question and then we think, or we may feel intuitively, through Krishna's guidance, like this probably may be disturbing to the other person, or maybe it will be better to speak about something else. I find the sense of not hiding and transparency to be so important in bringing them closer to Krishna, and to also invite them into that by saying, like, I really would like to share about this, and yet I'm feeling like, from my experiences, this can be very disturbing, and I would like to share something else. Instead of
This is
like,
very disturbing, I feel.
yeah, because I find like,
Let's talk about it in 3 years.
maybe not, but it's just like to just bring them into that as well, because I feel that it can create a sense of mistrust if somebody feels like, oh, they are like hiding something from me and I don't know what they are hiding. And our mind is just such a narrative maker that it's just like there can be so many narratives made from that.
Yeah, there's even an offense when you share when you explain the glories of the holy name to people who are inimical or just trying to make fun of you. So we want to be intelligent and sharp.
Yeah.
You can't be taken advantage of. And if Srila Prabhupada, when he detected this mood of a challenge, he would fight back, he would ridicule these false inquirers. If you're dealing with a false inquirer, you don't have to play holy and humble, who's the most humble. We have to be able to, fight back sometimes. That's necessary. Right, Bhima Prabhu? Do you fight back?
With a fork. With a pitchfork.
Bhima Prabhu, do you want to add something?
Yes. By the way, can I be heard okay? I'm out at the barn. I can be heard? Okay. Because that's my priority in life, is to be heard, not to listen, but to be heard. I had to explain to a Catholic person who was very sincere, very devotional, this particular pastime, or actually the rasa dance, because they asked, so what is this God dancing with girls and stuff? So what I did was I went into their background, which would be in the Catholic faith, as within ours, we have an ashram where women will devote their lives. They will actually betroth themselves in the Catholic Church as nuns to their beloved Lord, which would be Christ. And when they take vows of chastity, it is not simply a denial of their desire to have an intimate relationship of affection with another person, but it is their affirmation of solely and exclusively having an intimate and affectionate relationship with the Lord within their heart only. So with that explanation to the Catholic person, totally understood what this was all about. That the Gopis, this feminine idea of submission and complete abandonment and surrender to the beloved, which is ultimately what the Prakriti surrender is. It's a feminine submission. It's a complete abandonment of one's mind, body, and soul. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, and soul. That is a marriage. So, anyways, I'm rambling on and talking way above my pay grade here, but that's how I explained it, and they got it right away what the Gopis were. So and I remember later on, she was looking at a picture, the same picture, the Gopi picture, and she was saying, this is so much nicer than wearing a habit. The saris that the Gopis are wearing are so much nicer than having to wear a habit. So I thought that was great, because she was Catholic and she was going to become a nun, but she said, I didn't like the fact that we had to wear a habit and cover ourselves at all times. So she really dug the whole Gopi form of surrender. So Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima. Wonderful example of how to explain Krishna consciousness appropriately. A sincere person will always appreciate and understand. A false inquirer will never, get it until they want to, until they submit. Or we submit.
I want to add something.
Yes,
Justy, yeah, Justy, go ahead.
Hi, Hare Krishna. We know the Lord Krishna is the supreme truth, the supreme cause of and sustaining force of everything, right? Both material and spiritual sides, right? And advanced souls surrender unto him in devotion, whereas impious souls divert their minds to other objects of worship. Sorry because of my accent. Yeah, I do my best while reading English. But yeah, something that I wanted to ask that came to my mind while having the class today was all of us, we know that how wonderful is Krishna. He is the Supreme Lord, right? And one day, talking about that, someone that was going through a situation related with health asked about how be able to do more once you are between health and between your spirituality, right? And that was something that I was not having an answer for that, right? So I would like to discuss that, right? Yeah.
So are you asking like how do we continue spiritual practice if we have health challenges? Is that?
Exactly.
Yeah. I will broaden it up because I think it applies to many things. And the principle is that there actually is no material impediment to the spiritual advancement.
Exactly.
Like there just isn't. And even like our Gurudev, His Holiness Radhanath Swami, he has a Bhaktivedanta hospital. And as you know, in hospital, people come and they are sick or they go through a whole bunch of suffering. And it's even shared that like many people became devotees in the hospital because they are taken care of so beautifully. They are hearing the holy name. They are taught how to chant, and they just receive this holistic approach to like mind, body, and spirit. And so, and then oftentimes I actually have two close friends who have severe health issues, and actually when they got severe health issues, that was a form of blessing of the Lord, because they could actually surrender deeper, realizing that like, wow, this world is just full of suffering. Like my body is in suffering all the time, and all I can do is just I just need to call out to the Lord for His support. And the same close friend, I will not say her name because I think that it may be infringing upon her privacy, but she spoke with our spiritual master, and he also has some health issues. And then she talked about the holy name, and she asked him like, Gurudev, do you feel pain when you chant? And he said, no, when I chant and I go and enter the holy name, like there's no suffering, there's no pain. It's just like ecstasy. It's just the pleasure of really connecting with Krishna. And so it may be hard, and at the same time, it is Prabhupada said that health comes first before sadhana. But we can still care for the body as caring for the vessel of service towards the Lord. And so even taking care of our health with that mentality, I'm preparing my tool to serve Krishna, can be also service in itself. But still, like there really isn't any material impediment and to the advancement. And because Krishna sees that we do our, like he sees what we hold back, not what we give. And also if we just do our best, he just carries, like he preserves what we have and carries what we lack. And so if we do our best, and our best may be very different in different phases of our lives, or in different lives, still this is what counts. How do you feel receiving this answer?
It's a great answer. Yeah. Yes. I got it. Yeah. And now I have a picture. Yeah. Thanks for that. Thank you for explaining that well. And yeah, of course, I was having that that question after listening to that, and it's great to be able to give an answer. Yeah. So I appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah, great answer, Ananda Manjari. Balanced, Shastrik. Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would anyone else like to share anything briefly in glorification of Krishna? Even Nadi doesn't want to glorify Krishna. Okay.
He glorified Krishna every day, 24 hours a
Yeah, with
day,
every breath, Adipusha
every
Prabhu
breath.
takes, it's a glorification of Krishna and the Guru.
Yeah.
Sometimes he'll grab a guitar and do it on the guitar. It's every breath. Okay, let's all be like Adi.
Adi called Haribo.
Yes, Bhima.
Adi calls me, has been calling me for several years now, at least twice a day, if not more. And every time he calls me, I pick up the phone because without fail, he starts talking about Krishna, and not preaching, but application in the life that surrounds him. Krishna's doing this. It's amazing. Krishna's doing that. You wouldn't believe what Krishna's up to. Krishna did this. Krishna did that, constantly. And here I am. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I don't get to speak to devotees. And this is what sustains me, is this constant practical application of realization of Krishna in all our lives at every moment. Whether half the times he's talking about these outrageous things where Krishna's, supposedly smashing away or making some kind of confusing maneuver, and it's always Krishna's doing this and Krishna's doing that. So I just thought I'd even without talking about Krishna, Adi is exemplifying this understanding that though we might not understand what's going on around us, it might even be painful. We might be having a lot of stuff taken away from us, but it's always Krishna at work. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Adi.
Yes, Bhima Prabhu. Yeah, I have the same experience with Adi. He never deviates from Krishna. Ever. He's always there to straighten us out. And he charges 25 cents, just 25 cents per minute for his counseling. Really affordable. Anyone
He's
can.
amazing. Yeah. Krishna is amazing, and Adi as well.
Yeah, call him up. Call him up. It's affordable. He'll bring you back to your senses, your transcendental senses. Okay. We love you all. Have a wonderful day. Yes, Dana Krishna's Radharani. We're signing her up for Adi's therapy. Okay. Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful day. Ananda Manjari. Nice class. Bruce Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Nice seeing you. Hare Krishna. Everybody. Nice seeing you. Venetia. Henry Prabhu. Yogeshwari. Suzanne. Rich. Dana. Amrita Kishori. Venu Gita. Sharmila. Pink Yogi. Prema Vinodini. D.D. Hare Krishna. Hare Rama. Bye-bye.